Hey everybody, it's Gwen here. So, while I was working on some major long-form video essays, one of them actually released last week, I noticed a kind of funny trend in theaters over these last couple months. So, I want to talk about it real quick. Basically, over the last few weeks, we've gotten 2 animated robot movies and 2 killer clown movies. I'm not exactly sure why that struck me as being funny, but it kind of was, and it's not exactly the first time that there's been a crossover like this.
You killed Captain Clown. You killed Captain Clown!
But also, these are movies that I genuinely want to talk about, so why not? Starting with Transformers 1, this is kind of the Transformers movie I've always wanted since I was a kid. I mean, I was one of the kids that grew up with the Michael Bay movies as my primary exposure to these characters, aside from the toys, of course. Anyone remember those Star Wars ones that they had for a little while? Those were actually really cool, but, wait, they're doing more? But in all honesty, I always really loved the origin story for Optimus Prime and Megatron when they were friends before the birth of warring factions of Autobots and Decepticons that eventually led to the death of their homeworld. It was something that I always felt would make for a phenomenal cinematic experience, even whenever my knowledge of Transformers lore was quite minimal. But for the longest time, I was kind of convinced it would never happen, because the studio just seemed hellbent on always centering these stories around humans. But here we are in the year 2024, and I finally have the movie I've always wanted, and it's unfortunately not doing the best, but it's fantastic. I love this movie. The animation was done by Industrial Light and Magic, whose work you might sooner recognize from VFX and big Hollywood blockbusters, including the live-action Transformers movies, but they have dabbled in making full-blown animated films. Earlier this year they did Ultraman Rising, which is also great, and their first animated feature film was actually Gore Verbinski's Rango, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a masterpiece. But yeah, the animation here in Transformers 1 is breathtaking, riding that fine line between the simplicity of G1's designs and the vast capabilities of modern computer animation, creating a beautifully lived-in world with gorgeously textured and rendered characters that capture a wide and palpable emotional range, as well as being an incredible display of high-octane action that somehow manages to have a true sense of physical weight despite all being crafted within a computer. The movie is directed by Josh Cooley, who also did Toy Story 4, which explains a lot because that movie's also pretty great. But the most impressive part of this movie is the writing, which is not something I think anyone expected to hear about a Transformers movie. But it's definitely true here. The way that Eric Pearson, Andrew Barr, and Gabriel Ferrari's script handles the entirety of Transformers lore and the central character arcs through its core theme of transformation, both in a literal sense as well as in how transformations can happen within our own relationships with one another, and the ways in which our society and personal ideologies can shift and transform for both better and worse. It's something I had absolutely no expectations for, but it's genuinely one of the most welcome surprises of the year. Also, what ultimately makes the script sing is the 2 central vocal performances of Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. They're just so damn good in this movie, and every last scene with them just drives red-hot needles straight through your heart. It's everything I hoped for in a film tackling the story of friends who ultimately become each other's worst enemies, dividing their shared home to the very brink of destruction. And also, the vocal transformations that both of these characters have over the course of the film is really captured beautifully through their performances. And it's just, I really haven't heard anything quite like it, and that's insane. Also, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee is a friggin' blast. He's the perfect comic relief character that strikes a balance between annoying and endearing. I know they planned a trilogy for this movie. I honestly don't know if that'll ever pan out. I'd love to see it, but even if this is all we get, I love every minute of it, and this is hands down the best Transformers movie we've ever had. As for the other animated bot movie this year, The Wild Robot is an absolute triumph of a film. I don't know if I'd go as far as everyone else and say this is a masterpiece, because I did personally find the pacing of the film to be a little off and inorganic in places. But for whatever flaws it may have in that regard, it fully makes up for in both its breathtaking, painterly animation as well as its absolutely massive bleeding heart, being this deeply profound and emotional ode to parenthood, nature, as well as in the ways we are forced to adapt and evolve beyond our base instincts or programming to become more than we are. At its heart, this is a movie about kindness and love transcending beyond nature itself, and it's honestly handled in a way that's so much more mature and heady than you'd probably expect for a film like this. But given this is from writer and director Chris Sanders, the same guy that brought us Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, this may not be as surprising as it sounds. Still though, this movie is a fantastic experience. Everyone should see it. It's probably going to be next year's Oscar winner for Best Animated Feature. Also, just yet another amazing leading performance from Lupita Nyong'o, who's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt at this point that she's one of the finest talents working today. Definitely don't sleep on this one. And then we get into one of my most anticipated films of the year, that being Joker Folie, Deux, which, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that the first Todd Phillips Joker movie was one of my favorites of 2019. I loved it. It was controversial, of course, but I feel the general response to it was pretty positive and it won several big awards, so all in all, it was a massive success, enough to warrant a sequel treatment, and out of the other comic book movies that I had on my list that year, it certainly aged better. But ironically, everyone seems to unanimously hate this sequel, and to be honest, it's only made me more interested, particularly because of why people were hating it. People have gone on about how the film seems to detest its own need to exist, that it hates its own fans, that people feel attacked by the movie. It's some of the most fascinating discourse I've ever heard for a comic book movie, so my excitement for this, which was already pretty high, just skyrocketed. And now, coming out of the movie, it's admittedly a movie I'm still processing, but that is actually a good thing. In a world of these big blockbuster comic book movies being made for focus groups and to be as inoffensive as possible, a problem that's only going to get worse according to certain reports, it's actually refreshing to have one of these that's genuinely conflicting and forces me to sit with it a while and actually put serious thought into how it makes me feel. Joaquin's performance this time around, I'd argue, is even better than last time, which already was the best part of the first movie. Lady Gaga's really damn good in this movie as Harley Quinn, and as someone that's very precious with this character, I'll admit, I should hate what's being done with her. I didn't even like how they reinvented the character for Caped Crusader. I'm very picky with Harley Quinn, but I gotta say, I love this take. Harley in this movie is evil, like an absolute monster that completely flips the script of the Joker and Harley dynamic, and I like it. Like last time, the cinematography and music is great. This time, the movie's even a musical, taking on a variety of inspirations from Sonny and Cher to Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, while still trying to toe the line and keep a tonal consistency with the very bleak and restrained qualities of the first film. I'll admit, I'm still unsure on where I land on this in terms of how well it's executed, but there's at least one musical number in here that's f***ing incredible, and I'm gonna be thinking about it for a while. And yeah, pretty much everything about this movie feels like a deeply meta and cynical riposte to the bizarre and in some ways very toxic response to the first movie. It's a pretty dark joke at the expense of everyone that had all the incorrect takeaways from the first film, and yeah, sure, it's gonna piss people off, but I admire its boldness and its bitterness to its very core. Again, I don't exactly know where I stand on this movie. I don't know if I love it, but I definitely don't hate it. I just think it's a fascinating work of art that I'm happy was allowed to exist, and I'm gonna be mulling over this one for a while. And I'll just leave you with one last thing regarding this movie. As I was leaving the theater, two other people, complete strangers I've never met before, came up to me and asked me what I thought of the film. Not one of the three of us could really come up with an answer, being so bewildered by everything we had just seen. And I don't know about you, but I think that that's really cool. And then finally, reaching Terrifier 3, the long-awaited sequel to the smash hit indie horror film Terrifier 2, which I absolutely loved. I'm conflicted. While I'm happy that Damien Leone has gotten a chance to work with a larger canvas in this new installment, I'll admit I kinda left the theater a little underwhelmed. If you love a good, gory slasher fest that has absolutely no fear and a strong willingness to go to dark and shamelessly mean places, this is absolutely for you, and for the last two movies, it was definitely for me as well, but I personally felt an artistic conflict in what Damien was wanting to do with this installment. On one hand, it achieves the crude kill-by-kill beat sheet of a slasher narrative with an artful and pitch-black sense of humor, only now with the added setting and theming of a Christmas movie. But the film is also trying to be a more serious character piece and a social commentary on the damaging effects of horrifically traumatic events and the ways in which victims can become isolated not only from the world at large, but also their own loved ones and even their very soul itself as they suffer alone in silence. And on top of that, the film starts to dabble further in a more grand mythological story, setting the stage for something much more ambitious than the more standard slasher, but without actually diving in, ultimately making this entry feel more like an awkward, uneven in-between point. My hope is that Terrifier 4, or what it may actually be, a feature-length adaptation of Damien Leone's original short film, The Ninth Circle, is that it's able to finally take that ambition that's clearly there and expand the concept into something more interesting and fulfilling. Because I'll admit, as it is now, for me at least, Art the Clown's slasher gimmick has unfortunately started to run its course, and from the looks of it, Damien Leone even agrees, it seems, as he really only has one or two more movies planned with this character. I'm happy with the insane success of this independent film franchise, because when something this small is this successful, it's a win for everyone and really opens doors, not just for all the artists involved, but for independent cinema as a whole. I'm just, sadly, by the end of 3, starting to find the series a little grating. And I hate to feel that way just so soon after a film that I genuinely loved. But there does seem to be a hope for the next film, as Damien's finally gonna have the budget to go to the bolder places he wants to go story-wise. So I'm more enthusiastic about what that's gonna be than I am with this movie. All in all, though, I definitely recommend you check out all of these movies. Every last one of them is worth your time, in my opinion. Mileage will vary, of course, for some more than others. Obviously, I can't recommend Terrifier 3 to anyone under 18. They won't even let you in to see the movie. It's that graphic. Then, simply in the case of Joker Folie I Do, it's very much an acquired taste. It's a movie that actively breaks conventions and interrogates its audience. It's purposely made to not be for everyone. I just recommend it on the principle of it being a very unique work in a space that usually strives for a degree of homogeneity. But both of the animated movies I covered are an honest-to-God treat for everyone, both delivering beautiful writing and craftsmanship, as well as genuinely endearing and heartfelt performances. If you're looking for something more accessible that you and anyone you know at any age can enjoy together, Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot are definitely for you. They're great films. All I'm really asking is that you just take a chance on any of these. They're all great movies that people put everything they had into them. Sometimes that's more accessible, sometimes it's not. But what I really strive to see in any film is the honest expression of the artists that made them, and that's absolutely what I get with all 4 of these movies tenfold. So all I can ultimately say is, please, just watch any of them. Just support art. It's worth it. They're good. But yeah, I just wanted to ramble about these movies real quick. Also, as I said, I did release a long-form video essay very recently. It's a video on The Exorcist sequels and my thoughts on those. And I have another one that's in the works. That one is gonna be a bit longer and a bit more heavy. I think you'll all know what I mean whenever it comes out. I'm not really gonna say what it is just yet because it is a more serious topic, but please go check out that Exorcist video. It was kind of my Halloween treat to all of you. It was a real passion project. It's one I've been wanting to do for an entire year. And yeah, as always, if you like this and you want to see more, go ahead and click the like button, share it around, subscribe even, comment, and I'm sure I get annoying for asking this, but if you can or you're interested, feel free to check out my Patreon. I have tiers that start all the way down at just $1 a month if you're interested in checking any of that out. But I might do more of these smaller ramble videos just to get, you know, some smaller thoughts I have out to you guys sooner about things. If that's something you guys might be interested in, I'm not sure, just let me know. Yeah, I will probably see you all next month with the next big video. So, as always, keep a steady stride, and I'll see you on the other side.